Peter Mary is past president of the American Disc Jockey Association and has been entertaining at wedding receptions since 1992. Peter has been a featured speaker for professional associations and conferences across the United States. Peter describes himself as a wedding entertainment director and is very passionate about helping couples create unforgettably fun celebrations. Peter is the author of The Best Wedding Reception Ever. Looks like this. It is available at the conference for $20. On Amazon, it's $24.95 plus shipping and handling. Please welcome Mr. Peter Mary.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome. Glad to see all of you here. I spoke at this conference a little over a year ago, and it's just been great to see how much it's grown. Will, fantastic job. Let's hear it for Will, everybody. Isn't this been great? For those of you who are wondering what this presentation is going to be about, I need to let you know that it was originally written to present to DJs. However, there are some things in this presentation I think you'll find are very universal. I used to provide sound support and AV for sales conference training sessions that were done for Coldwell Banker years ago. And I can tell you that some of the best sales lessons I've ever gotten were while I was there providing sound support, not as a real estate agent, but just as a private business owner who heard some amazing sales training going on for real estate agents that translated universally to what I do. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I thought I'd show you how I got started in the business. That's what I looked like when I first got started. I started entertaining at weddings back in 1992. I did my first wedding on July 4th of 1992, and it wasn't very good. I didn't have a college degree. I had gone to college and dropped out when I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and then I figured out I'd get into being a DJ. Turns out in my line of work, there's a lot of people who don't have a college degree. I actually had a long career in the field of high-velocity culinary arts. That's what I call fast food. And after doing that for quite some time, I decided that I wanted to move into a new line of work. So I started, after working for somebody else for about a year and a half, I started my own service in July of 1994. And when I started my own service, I came up with a really ingenious plan about how to set my pricing and develop my business plan. What I did was I opened up the yellow pages and I called everybody that was in it and asked them what they were charging. And then I set my prices just a little lower than they were. What I didn't know was most of the people I was talking to weren't actually making a living in this line of work. They had a full-time job somewhere else, or maybe they had 20 guys working for them so they could make a living. And I quickly found out that it was really hard to make a living at $400 a wedding. So after starting my business 6 months later, in the summer of 1995, I literally wound up homeless. We lost our apartment, had to move everything into storage, and I had to go get some real jobs to hold down the fort while I tried to build my business. We actually have video footage of me at that era in my life. I think we got it right here. Let's see if that's going to, there we go. Will DJ for food, yes. That kind of marketing worked back then. It's a list of my psychological issues that were plaguing me when I first started my business. Number one was low self-esteem. People would come up to me at the end of the night and I'd do a great job and they'd say, that was great. And I'd say, yeah, but I could have done this better, or yeah, but the crowd was great. And I would turn away their compliments and rebuff them and argue with them. And one day she turned to me and she said, can't you ever just say, thank you? Whoa, what a concept. Hadn't thought of that. I was suffering from depression, although I wasn't aware of it at the time. I had a lack of motivation, and here I am trying to start a business, and I've got these negative thought patterns that keep running through my head, where I would show up at my events, and I'd look out at the crowd, and I'd go, they're not going to dance. They're not going to dance. They haven't had enough to drink. They're too old. They're too young. It's too bright. It's too late. They're not going to dance. And then at the end of the night, when they danced, I felt like I had achieved the impossible. It was only years later that I learned to say just the opposite. And I suffered from what's called an outer locus of control. For those of you who don't have a psychology background, if you're not familiar with what that is, here's a brief description. An outer locus of control is one who blames others and blames circumstances when things go wrong. They have what's called learned powerlessness. Learned powerlessness. The best way to picture this is when you're at a circus tent and you see an elephant staked down to the ground outside the tent, and it's not pulling up that stake even though it's more than strong enough to do it. Why? Because when it was a baby, it got staked down and it would pull on that stake repeatedly for about a year until it finally came to the realization that it couldn't pull that stake up and it gave up. And then when it became a full-grown adult and had a lot more weight and a lot more strength behind it, and it could easily pull that out of the ground, it never even bothers to try because it's accepted the fact that it's powerless. Learned powerlessness was something I suffered from in a big way. And then also the outer locus of control tends to see no choices. There are no options, everything's hopeless. The opposite of this is referred to as the inner locus of control. This is the person who takes personal responsibility, and when things go wrong, instead of blaming others and blaming their circumstances, they analyze what they could have done to make it better. Next is self-motivating and self-regulating. Instead of believing that I'm powerless, I try to find ways to motivate myself and move on to higher goals. And then finally, creating options and creating choices. Rather than assuming that there are no options and choices, continually finding ways to create my own options and choices. And through going to therapy and doing a lot of other things that I did to turn my life around, I was able to move from that outer locus to an inner locus. And this is the end result. A little bit better looking there. I created my own title, the Wedding Entertainment Director, in 2001. That's something I'm currently trademarking. I've earned over 6 figures since 2003, and I only entertain at weddings that I can do myself. I don't have a staff of people. This is what I earned just doing my own business on my own. As mentioned before, I was the ADJ president in 2003 and 2004. After taking my local chapter and growing it from 30 members to 100 members in 1 year's time, I was elected to serve as the national president. I toured the country and went to 40 cities, giving away free seminars to attract members. And we went from about 300 members to about 600 members in about 2 years' time. It was pretty exciting to see that kind of growth. Now they're well over 1,000 members and doing fantastic under the guidance of Dr. Drax. I started my own company called Merry Weddings in 2006. I had my own company for years, but I created a new identity that was branded just for weddings. I figured with a last name like Mary, why not take advantage of that and call it Merry Weddings? And I rolled that out with a whole new form of marketing that was really attractive to brides and didn't look anything like what you'd expect from a DJ. In 2007, I published my first book, The Best Wedding Reception Ever. This is a self-published book. It's still not on the bookshelves. We're selling on Amazon.com, our website, thebestweddingreceptionever.com, and at my speaking engagements. In 1 year's time, we sold 7,000 copies of this book. And we're right now in the process, thank you. It's pretty exciting stuff. We're in the process of shopping to some publishers and some literary agents, and we have some pretty high hopes for that. And also in 2007, I founded an organization called the Wedding Entertainment Directors Guild to identify other entertainers who are doing a little bit more than just pushing play. And then finally, I landed 5 TV interviews in the last 5 years to talk about my book and to talk about how to make weddings fun. Quite a change from where I was. Now, my talk today is called DJ Say the Darndest Things, and if you were expecting me to give you a whole bunch of quotes of really stupid stuff that DJs have said at weddings, I have a couple coming later. But the purpose of this is to show you what I've identified are 10 statements that are made in my industry and may very well be made in yours as well that hold us back from achieving success. And I've identified them into these top 10, and here's a quick overview of what they are. Statement number 1 is, I could never. Statement number 2 is, I would but. Statement number 3 is, I can't in my area. Number 4, I will lose bookings. Number 5, I'd feel guilty. Number 6, I can't see paying for. Number 7, I've got great gear. Number 8, I'm just a DJ. Number 9, I'm already the best. And number 10, you're going to have to wait and see what that one is. I got to save something for the end. So let's dig in real quick. Statement number 1, I could never. I got a call from a DJ who had seen me do a presentation in Las Vegas at a national conference we speak at for DJs several years back, and he asked about my new website for Merry Weddings, merryweddings.com. He wanted to know how it was working for me. And when I pointed out that it's actually helped me to take my pricing from an average rate for a wedding of about $2,800 up to $5,000 literally overnight, his jaw dropped, and the first thing he said was, I could never get $5,000 for my services. And I said, really? Why would you say that? Why would the first words out of your mouth be, I could never? Take a look at that statement. It's a statement of fact. And when you say to yourself, I could never, guess what you've just done? You've just created that limitation that you'll never be able to get past. And you've told yourself it's impossible, so why bother trying? That statement really means it's impossible, I could never do it. That's somebody who sees no options. So instead, we should be replacing that statement with, how can I? Ask questions that will lead to possibilities. I challenged him on this, and I said, you know what if you asked yourself, how can I get to 5,000? Even if you don't ever get to that rate, regardless of why, if you get halfway there, you still got a lot further than you ever dreamt possible. But by thinking in possibilities and asking the right questions, instead of limiting yourself by saying I could never, you're now opening yourself up to the possibility of making it happen. Statement number 2, I would, but... My pastor preached a sermon on this one that really kind of cracked me up. He was talking about how when God appeared in the burning bush to Moses, he started calling Moses and telling him what he wanted to do, and Moses responded by saying, yeah, but, well, I can't, but, I can't speak very well, but, and Moses just kept coming up with but after but after but to the God of the universe. And I thought it was kind of funny. It reminded me of this little video clip here, and it's going to be kind of hard to see at the beginning, but this is from the movie Pee-wee's Big Adventure. We're going to learn something today from Pee Wee Herman. Let's listen really close.
What's stopping you?
Well, Andy for one.
Who's Andy?
My boyfriend.
Simone, this is your dream. You have to follow it.
I know you're right, but...
But what? Everyone I know has a big butt. Come on, Simone, let's talk about your big butt.
What's your big butt? Do you have a big butt? Do you have that statement that you keep saying over and over again that's your excuse for why you're never going to get that next idea out there on the market? Why you're not going to roll out that new service you want to offer to your clients? What is that butt that's holding you back? I call this one, there are too many obstacles. Maybe you're saying there's too much competition. My kids are in college. I have great benefits on my regular job. There could be all kinds of things that are holding you back from pursuing the dream you want to achieve. But if you find yourself saying, I would, but, once again, that's a limiting statement that shuts down progress. Change it from I would, but to I will, and then stop making excuses and start declaring your goals. Long before he got his big break, Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $1 million for acting services rendered. When his father passed away, he took that check and he put it in his father's coffin because by that point in his life, he had already been paid that much for his services. Why did that happen? One of the reasons it happened is because he set a goal and he declared the goal. He put it in writing and he said it and he says, this is where I'm going to go and this is what I'm going to do. When I decided to make a jump from 2,800 for my weddings to 5,000, I didn't just wake up one day and just do it. I set a goal, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I told several other people in my community and several other entertainers that I respect, and I got their advice and their counsel, but I said, this is what I'm going for. And then I worked towards that goal and made it happen. One of the goals that I set for myself when I got my book self-published was that I would be sitting on a couch talking to Oprah Winfrey one of these days. Hasn't happened yet. That's actually my head on Bono's body. A good friend of mine sent me that as a send-out card for my birthday. Great birthday present. But you know what? I've had 5 TV interviews since I got my book out, and the reason I got those interviews was because I have a book. When you have a product that shows that you're an expert in an area, they're even more likely to open the doors and let you in. I wouldn't have gotten those TV interviews if I hadn't made that first step. And you know what I call those first 5 TV interviews? Practice. And I'll do as many of them as I have to do until I finally get the phone call from Oprah. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I've had people ask me, because they know that I declared this goal publicly in my own industry, and they ask me how it's going. And what I haven't told them is that in May, I did a wedding for a groom who works as a producer for the TV show TMZ. Anybody watch that show? Anybody want to admit it? That's the show where they stalk celebrities and show all the video footage of it. Yeah, great show. Really high quality show. But he's a producer on that show. And when you get a TV producer to contact another TV producer, you have a much more likely chance of getting your message across. He took my book, got it in the hands of one of Oprah's lead producers, and they're waiting until she covers weddings again. I keep working on it. It's my goal. That's what I'm shooting for. The next statement number 3, I can't in my area. Or what they're really meaning is this region is too small and or too poor. You just don't understand how bad it is in my region. And I hear that all the time. And once again, you need to keep in mind that's an outer locus. We're blaming outside forces instead of finding ways that we can maximize our potential. I had a posting that I saw online from a DJ, and this is what he said. It's going to pop up here. He said, what I'd like to see is 10 of these million-dollar DJs work their magic in the same 20-square-mile depressed area like Camden, New Jersey. Then I'd be a believer. Okay, admittedly, I'm from Orange County. It's one of the most affluent counties in the country. Anybody here from Camden, New Jersey? Okay, I was curious, so I went on Google Maps and I looked up Camden, New Jersey. There it is on Google Maps, population 79,900. I can understand where he's coming from. I service a population base of all of Southern California that's over 20 million people. So I've got a large population base to cover, but I cover Southern California. So I decided to see what Camden, New Jersey really looked like and pull back a little bit. And when I started pulling back, what I noticed was a little bridge that goes over the river there, and 5 miles from downtown Camden, you're in Philadelphia, population 1.5 million. Is he scared of bridges? Does he not have a vehicle to get his gear over the bridge to where all the people are? What does his DJ equipment look like? We need to change that statement from I can't in my area to I can expand my market. Start thinking larger and increased demand will follow. One of the best areas I've seen for wedding entertainers is the Dallas-Fort Worth market. I know several entertainers there who are doing some exceptional work, and it's just a fantastic blossoming market. And I ran into a DJ there who, after hearing me do this presentation, sent me an email and he goes, "You don't get it, this market's depressed." And his proof? He lost a booking to a cheaper DJ. That's it. That's all the proof I need. Guess how many weddings I've lost to cheaper DJs? Happens all the time. I'm sure you've lost weddings to cheaper vendors too. But if you're going to look at the ones who are taking the jobs, your focus is in the wrong place. And that leads us to the next statement, which is, I will lose bookings. If I raise my rates and try to do more, I'll lose bookings because cheaper DJs will get all the gigs. Cheaper photographers will get all the weddings. Cheaper florists will get all the weddings. Is that really true? We tend to focus on the short-term losses instead of the long-term gains. There was a DJ at a bridal show that I saw once who had a whiteboard, a dry erase whiteboard. And on the whiteboard, it said, $350 bridal show special. Later, we walked by the same booth, it had been scrubbed out, and now it said, $295 bridal show special. When we asked him what happened, he said, "This show really sucks. If I'd gotten some bookings, I would have raised the rate a little bit, but the bookings have been way down. Nobody's talking to me, so I lowered the rate." Talk about short-term thinking. He's focusing on the immediate instead of his total year. So instead of saying, I will lose bookings, maybe instead we should say, I will gross more. Focus on the long-term gains, not the short-term losses. When I made that jump from 2,800 to 5,000, did I lose bookings? Yeah, of course I did. I went from an average of 40 weddings down to about 26 weddings the first year that I did it. Did it hurt? Not really. I still wound up grossing over 6 figures for the next year. I still wound up grossing around the same that I had for the last 4 or 5 years. I did less work. I made more money. And I was able to give my clients even better service because I had more time. What a concept. What a concept. Here's the best part. I filled 35 dates this year. So it's coming back up, which means eventually, so will the rates. So the next question that the next statement that people will make is, I'd feel guilty. They say higher prices are a ripoff. Really? Honestly, if you're a wedding vendor and you ever say this about somebody else who's charging more than you, seek professional help. Please. This has nothing to do with what the clients see in value. It has everything to do with your perceptions of your own value. And that's pretty hardcore, but it's true. Here's a statement that was posted on a chat board by a DJ. He said, I've calculated out what I'd have to charge to DJ full-time, and sorry to me, that's highway robbery. And I don't feel any DJ is worth that in this market. Is this somebody who will ever be able to make this a career and earn a livable wage? No. He doesn't see any options. And when he sees people who are making a living, he thinks they're committing highway robbery. When you're serving your clients and giving them the best service that you can and charging a fee that will allow you to make a living, that's called a fair exchange. And here's what's going to happen. If your clients don't see value, they'll tell your friends and you'll lose business and maybe you'll need to drop your rates. But if you raise your rates and you keep getting the bookings and the demand keeps increasing, guess what? You should have been charging that much 2 years ago. And you didn't even realize it. I thought that was just so funny. It reminded me of a little bit that George Carlin did. Take a listen. They are gouging their clients and ripping them off. And people that are charging less than me, well, they're bottom feeders and they're ruining the industry. But my prices are just right. Wow, I didn't realize that pricing had to do with Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Seriously, is that how we're doing our pricing and evaluating value? If you find yourself calling somebody else a gouger or calling somebody else a bottom feeder, you need to understand that there's a market for everybody. And the target market that you want to go to may be in a different stratosphere. You may need to consider raising your rates. But if you think you're going to feel guilty over it, that's an issue with you, not with what your clients are willing to pay. Change I'd feel guilty to I'll feel respected, because cheap entertainment, great entertainment isn't cheap, and cheap entertainment isn't great. It's a fact of life. As a wedding vendor, if you feel like raising your rates would be unfair to your clients so that you can actually make and continue to make a living and continue to service them, then I would suggest one thing that you can do, absolutely, that will get you more work in the future, and that's put out a tip jar. At least you'll get more money that way. So moving on to statement number 6, I can't see paying for. What's this one mean? Well, this one might not be so prevalent in your industry, but it really is in ours. There's an idea out there that information and ideas should be shared freely. How many people here are actually here today completely for free? That's right. You all paid to be here. You paid to fly here, you paid to stay here, you paid to come to this show. You took time out of your business to be here. You might even be missing out on a possible booking by being here. You're missing out on time with your family. It's costing you money to be here, and you're investing that time so that you can reinvest in your business. But there are people out there literally who will say that all the best information should be just given for free. And if it's not free, it doesn't have value. And that's the wrong approach. I have a product that I put out a couple of years for DJs called Wedding Marketing. It's called the 6 Pillars of Wedding Marketing. It's not for most wedding vendors. It's specialized just for DJs. When they see a price tag of $100 for a marketing DVD that's 2 hours long, some of them balk and say, how can you charge that much? The DVD only costs $2 to make. How much time and effort went into the information that's in there? And if you spend $100 on a product like that and you wound up being able to raise your rates by $300 or $400 or $500 over the next year, how much more money would you make as a result of improving your marketing and its effectiveness? I think you'd reap your reward back really quickly. I came out with my book and I had people criticize me that I actually sold a book. You know what? I'll become Mother Teresa and just publish it and pay for it out of my own pocket. It's $20 here at the show, which I think is fantastic. But it never ceases to amaze me that in my industry, the majority of the people want it for free, and yet the majority of the people also aren't making a living. So they see this as something they do for charity to help brides, and they think that anybody else in the industry should do the same. Instead of saying, I can't see paying for, we should always be saying, I must invest in. When I value the work of others, my clients will see value in me. If you don't value the work that others do, they won't see value in you. I had a catering manager who saw me at a wedding once, and he called me up the following Tuesday, and he said, hey, I want to start recommending to my brides. That was some of the best entertainment I've seen at a wedding, and I really want them to know about you. And I said, oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm flattered. And he said, but I need to know, how much do you charge? And at the time, I was about $2,000. And when I told him that, he said, oh, that's way out of the budget of my brides. They can't afford that. I'm not going to be able to recommend you. And I went, okay, hang on a second. You just got done saying I was one of the best you'd seen. That's why you wanted to recommend me. Let's reverse this for a second. How would you say your rates and the value you provide measure out? He says, well, we offer an exceptional service and great catering and really quality food, but our prices are just about average. And I said, I completely understand. Good day. He didn't see value in me, and he didn't even see enough value in himself, because he's telling himself that he puts out a fantastic product, but he's only charging an average price. He didn't even believe it in himself. So investing in products like these won't ever cost you money. They earn you money in the long run. Statement number 7, we heard this one in a different way. I've got great gear. Some people believe that equipment establishes value. I love that story about the photographer with the pictures of his cameras on his website. I've seen some really interesting marketing in my years, and I was at one wedding show where the DJ had a postcard, and it said, $595 will get you 1,200 watts and 2 12-inch speakers. $695 will get you 1,400 watts and 2 15-inch speakers. And I turned to him and I said, how much do you charge for your DJ services? And he said, huh? I said, everything that's on your brochure is equating your value with what you're going to bring. I thought you were just a gear rental company. I was wondering how much you charge for what you actually do, for your performance. He hadn't thought of that before. Is it any wonder that in our male-dominated DJ industry, the most common word found on most DJ websites is the word equipment? Let you think about that one for a second. I've seen some crazy marketing in my years. Check this one out. This is an advertisement on a McDonald's sign. It says, "Now hiring losers." It probably said closers, and somebody stole the C, and whoever that was very smart. This is a plumber's truck. It's painted to look like he's sitting on the toilet as he drives down the street, waving at you. Here's another one that I found interesting. Waverly Pest Control and DJ Service. I'm thinking maybe he specializes in junior high dances. Now, which one is more important? Obviously the pest control, that came first. Have you ever seen a contractor market themselves like this? Handy Randy, I can build stuff because I got tools. He's holding up his drill and he's holding up his hammer. How many contractors have you ever seen market like that? They don't. But in my line of work, how many pictures have you seen like this? Look, we've got lights and tuxedos and speakers and even a microphone. We can make your wedding great. You see all kinds of things like these on their websites, promoting the massive amounts of equipment that they're going to bring to the event. But what they're missing the boat on is that the brides care not one bit about what I bring. What they care about is what I can deliver and create for them. There's a fantastic book that I found that showed me some of the examples of what was wrong with this, because what's really going on is DJs will look at the way other DJs are marketing and they'll go, I'll make a better version of that. And when you make a better version of what's already bad marketing, you're just making a better bad marketing idea. You know what they say, you can't polish a turd? It's pretty much what it is. So I found this great book called Selling the Invisible. This is by Harry Beckwith, and in it he writes, services are not products, and service marketing is not product marketing. Think about that for just a moment. If you're selling what you do for your brides as the products you bring and the things you use to create their event, you're missing the boat, because it's your service that has the most value to them. And you need to understand that we market products differently than we market services. If I market a product, I'd market this remote that I'm using right now. It's a USB remote that has a play pause button, a back and forward button, and volume control buttons. It's wireless and works on my remote up to 50 feet away, and I've just shown you all of the features of it, and I can now sell you on the benefits. That's how you sell a product. You can borrow it, play with it, use it, and figure out whether or not you see value in it and want to purchase it. But when a bride is considering hiring me, she's not hiring my gear, she's not hiring my music, she's not hiring my camera and my lens, she's not hiring my flowers. What she's hiring is what I can do with those things for her, and that won't happen until her wedding day. So what I'm selling is invisible until the day I deliver it. If you haven't read this book, I'd highly recommend picking it up. Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith. Fantastic book, real easy read. He's got a lot of fantastic ideas in there that really show us all the different things you need to know. So I'm going to show you real quick some of the things that I learned in marketing that I've applied to my business, and I can show you how in less than 1 minute, with only 7 words, I can tell you what I do and why it's different without ever using the words music or DJ or showing you any equipment. Let's take a look.
Are you having any fun? What you getting out of living? What good is what you've got if you're not having any fun? Are you having any laughs? Are you getting any loving? Before you're old and gray, still okay. Have yourself some fun, son. Have yourself a little fun.
Any questions? And yet when we get a 1-minute ad, what do we want to do? We want to put up all the things we do and put in all the words and make it all busy and show you all the equipment and how fancy it looks. And that isn't what the bride wants. What she wants is she wants to know that her friends and family are going to have fun. I got to tell you, I've become a big fan in the last couple of years of photographers. I love working with my photographers. And one of the reasons why is because I've been noticing more and more of you that are doing the candid shots, and you're capturing candid moments that I had never noticed before. I had a photographer who commented on a grand entrance that I did, where I introduced the wedding party and said personal things about each one of them, and they were laughing. And I said, your photos are great. You got them laughing with their mouths wide open. And he says, yeah, but I don't get those except when I work with you. And then it dawned on me. My job is to create memories. Your job is to capture them. But if the entertainment doesn't know how to create the right kinds of memories, then the amount of memories you're going to capture could be severely limited. So instead of focusing on the fact that I've got great gear, I need to change that statement to I love my clients. That's right. Focusing on my clients' wants and needs increases my value. That's the key to sales and marketing right there. When you identify what they want and what they need, they're going to beat a path to your door every single time. And here's the fun part. We talked about this earlier in the day when they were talking about what brides know. How many of them really know what they need for their wedding day? Not a lot, right? So one of our jobs as wedding vendors when we meet with them is to help them start where they're at and open up their thinking a little bit more so they can see the full scope of things they're actually going to need. When I meet with brides and they tell me that they want music and maybe somebody to make announcements, I can show them video of that. And when they see the video of that, a lot of times they're horrified because they see a guy making announcements who says bride and groom the whole time and doesn't know their names, and they start to recognize that maybe they need something more than just somebody making announcements. So they start to realize that they might need a master of ceremonies. It's your job to help them uncover what those needs are, and if you can focus on what they want and what they need, they're going to love you in return. Statement number 8, I'm just a DJ. I saw a DJ who responded when he heard about me starting the Wedding Entertainment Directors Guild and identifying myself as a wedding entertainment director. And he said, I'm just a DJ, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of being just a DJ. I show up and I play music and people dance, and that's all I need to worry about. And it's great, and I do a great job, and they're happy, and I'm happy. Remember the good old days when all we did was show up and push play and make announcements? And I thought, wow, that's really interesting that he would take a job as important as the entertainment at a wedding and devalue it down so far to say it really doesn't matter that much. He was saying, don't you remember the good old days? And I was like, yeah, I remember the good old days. I wound up homeless, charging what other DJs charged. What I found out was that we're dealing with low expectations. Low expectations bring reduced responsibility. If we keep the expectations low, it's easy to satisfy my clients. Sure, they're happy. They're happy because you showed up on time and you weren't drunk. All right. Seriously, though, in my line of work, there's a lot of people who are thrilled if the DJ is actually on time and can speak English. They're thrilled with that, assuming they didn't want a bilingual wedding, okay? So instead of saying I'm just a DJ, change that statement around to I'm responsible for. Ownership and the success of an event will bring greater rewards. If you own the success of the events that you're a part of, whether you're in catering, photography, video, flowers, cake, it doesn't matter. If you're invested in trying to make that event as successful as possible with the help that you contribute, it's going to bring greater rewards to you. And then the next one, number 9, I'm already the best. I love this one. I'm already the best. And I've heard this from a lot of entertainers. They say at the end of the night, people come up and they say, you rock. Well, guess what? You rock is not a critique. I watched a DJ in San Francisco who asked me to come watch him for the purpose of taking notes and giving him a detailed critique afterwards. And I was taking notes furiously, and he'd been entertaining for 15 years. And what he had told the groom was that I was there for training purposes, and the groom completely misunderstood my purpose there. So the groom came over to me later in the night when people were dancing and I was taking notes, and he said, man, if you're training with this guy to learn how to be a DJ, you're going to do great because this guy freaking rocks. Only he didn't say freaking. And I went, wow, this groom was totally thrilled with how this guy did. I had 11 pages of handwritten notes of things that he was doing that were major flaws and major mistakes that could not only increase the success of his events, but increase demand for what he was doing. I didn't correct the groom. He didn't need to know. I just said, yeah, you're right. He's doing a good job. But later, when we sat down for our critique, I started with that feedback because I wanted the DJ to know that his groom said this. Now that we've established what your clients are qualified to give you a critique on, let's talk about some of the real issues that maybe need to be examined. What's really being said when somebody says, I'm already the best, is they're saying there's no room for improvement. I don't need to improve. I'm talented enough. I can just wing it. And in my line of work, there's a lot of people who think they can just show up at a wedding and just completely wing it. One of the best examples I could find of that is a clip of Will Ferrell on the David Letterman show. And we're going to watch him wing it for a second. I think you'll enjoy this.
And Will, I understand, is there a possibility of a little something special here tonight?
Well, you know, I've got some other exciting news.
Really?
You know, a lot of times on Broadway, they'll ask for Hollywood stars to come and join a show to inject new life into it. And I'm going to be starring in Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. Wow.
Starting this weekend.
Starting this weekend?
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was still running. Is it still running?
It's still running. It's still running. The problem is they really just throw you in. You only get like 3 rehearsals or something.
Really?
Yeah.
3 rehearsals?
And I've only been to one of them.
Are you comfortable?
But I'm comfortable. I went to the show. You know, I saw the show I think 10 years ago, and I've got a great memory.
Right.
And I have a lot of the memorabilia, sweatshirts and stuff.
So you should be ready to go.
I should be good. I don't have it totally down, but I would love to sing one of the songs for you.
Oh yeah, we'd love to hear it. What are we going to hear tonight?
I don't know the name of it.
Okay, good luck. Will Ferrell, ladies and gentlemen.
Slowly, gently, night unfurls its splendor. Grasp it, sense it, Jalibadagunai. Turn your face away from the garish light of day. Jerry, this mask is killing me. Hold on, feeling light, and listen to the music of the night. I am the Phantom. My real name is Jerry. I'm really lonely. I'd love to have a girlfriend. Something happened to my face. That's why I wear a scary mask. And I think I take it off, but I haven't read the rest of the script, so I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. Music of the night.
God bless you.
I'll get better.
Oh, it was wonderful. Will Ferrell, ladies and gentlemen, the Phantom of the Opera.
Now that's what you expect when somebody's winging it, right? Here's the funny part, and this is what I love about Will Ferrell. He has years and years and years and years of comedy training and experience. And even though that was done like he's just winging it and doesn't remember the words, you know he wrote it, and you know he rehearsed it over and over again, don't you? You know that's the truth. It looks like he's just winging it and making it up, but the reality is I've done stand-up comedy. And when you see it promoted on TV, it looks like they're just pulling stuff out of thin air and making it up off the top of their head. And 9 times out of 10, that's not the truth. They've spent months and sometimes years honing their capabilities and writing their material and rewriting it and redelivering it until they get it just right. And I watch that and I go, he's making fun of people who wing it. Yet he had to write and rehearse that severely to pull that off. And yet in my line of work, we got people who show up at weddings and try to do things like you're going to see in this next clip. This is a grand entrance, and the DJ is trying to do personalized bios about the wedding party. And after seeing this, I think you're going to see what I mean about somebody who's trying to wing it when they're really not prepared.
Give it up for Phil Neguside. Come on, come on. come and go in your life when you need them the most and leave. Others stick around for the long run and make you laugh. She bravely volunteered to take on the mad scientist role in Crazy Dr. Love's class and has counseled Courtney through many analyzed situations, from making fun of the ship's toupee to standing next to Courtney on her wedding day. Give it up for Brittany King.
I finally got her music at the end. Was that hard to understand? How do you think the guests felt? They're watching this guy try to read while he's walking around. He heard about this idea of doing some personalized information when the wedding party gets introduced. Was he prepared to do that? Absolutely not. I had a DJ who came and watched me do a wedding several years ago and watched these personalized bios that I do, and he thought, wow, I can do the same thing. And he went out a few years later, and we got videotape of him introducing a bridesmaid, and he said, you may have noticed that she's gained weight. She's pregnant. He did the same thing that I do. His results were just a little different. Why? Because he saw me do something and said, that looks easy. I can just jump out and do it too. And what he failed to realize is, I've been doing public speaking for years. I've done stand-up comedy at the Improv. I've taken training in that. I've taken acting classes. I've acted in video. I've got so much training behind me that's enabled me to be able to confidently present and do what I do, that it looks easy, but it's not. And anybody who's good at their craft will make it look easy. And I don't care what your line of work is, if you think that what you do is easy, maybe you need to dig a little deeper, because you might find out there's more to it than you thought. This is a clip from the movie Drumline, where the teacher finds out that one of his students doesn't know how to read music. It's a requirement to be in this college. And listen closely as he confronts this student. And the integrity to learn your craft and recognize that on the entertainment side of weddings, it's a part of the performing arts field. And there are so many ways you can improve your capabilities and make sure your clients are getting better results. And if you're not willing to take those steps to improve what you're doing, when the phone don't ring, guess why? When people aren't willing to pay more, guess why? Instead of saying I'm already the best, we need to say I'm still learning, because honest critical feedback is always better than compliments. There's a phrase called unconsciously incompetent. What it means is you don't know what you don't know. No matter what field you're in, there are things that you are unconsciously incompetent about. And until somebody who knows more about that area than you do can come and show you the things you're not aware of, you will remain unconsciously incompetent about those things. And then you can move into being consciously incompetent. The DJ that I gave 11 pages of feedback to found himself suddenly consciously incompetent and went, uh-oh, I got some work to do. 3 years later, his prices have tripled, his demand is going through the roof, and he's seeing major results because he asked somebody to come and give him the feedback that would help him. But I don't just do that for them, I've had them come and do that for me. I had a friend of mine from Dallas come watch me do a wedding in November, and we went out to eat afterwards, and I'd given him feedback, now it was my turn. And he found several things that I wasn't aware of yet that could be done to make my events even better. And 2 weeks later, I'm at a wedding, and I was able to implement some of those ideas, and the results were even better than I had expected. Why? Because I sought out the honest critique. Honest critique will help you move from unconscious incompetence to consciously incompetent, and then you can move on to consciously competent, where you've improved and you've been able to make that change. Too often, we want the kudos, but we don't want the honest feedback that's going to help us grow. If you're a catering manager, if you're a florist, if you're a photographer, I don't care what line of work you're in, somebody in your field can come and show you some of those things you might not be aware of that can help you to save time, be more effective, increase demand, and make more money. You just have to be willing to invite them in and let them rip you a new one. That's what we call it in our industry. It's time to get ripped a new one. So now we're going to move on to number 10. The last one I saved as a surprise. Statement number 10. I'm a professional. In my line of work, everybody's a professional. They can start their business and the next day go to Kinko's and print up cards that say professional DJ. And I find that to be very interesting. And so I found a clip from The Office that kind of tied in with what I had to say about that. Let's all watch back. The sign says, "Sup Dog Entertainment." And behind it is another sign that says, "Professional DJ." What does it mean to be a professional? There's a lot of definitions about that. People tend to tie it into what you do. Are you offering a professional level of service? And they measure it based on what you do. But the word itself actually has another meaning that's very well known in popular culture. Watch this clip.
1 minute.
This is from the movie The Mexican. And James Gandolfini is a hitman who's taken Julia Roberts hostage. So she's going to try to get away here, sneaking out the back of the bathroom.
I'm a professional. I do this for a living.
Good for you.
Usually when somebody says that they're a professional, what they mean is, this is my profession. This is what I do for a living. Now, there have been some in my industry who've said that I've got a bone to pick with part-timers. I don't. I used to be a part-timer. I had to hold down real jobs for 5 years while I got my business to a point where I could make a living doing what I love doing. But the problem is that we've got an industry in my line of work that has set their prices well below a professional level, because the majority of them are not making a living, and so they're not concerned with making a living, so they set the prices where they're comfortable and not with what's a fair price for the service they're delivering. Part-timers also have less risk in raising their prices. Think about that. They got a regular job. They got a cushion. I don't have that cushion. When I raised my rates from 28 to 5, I didn't have a cushion to fall back on. I was flying without a net. When it comes to my industry, the vast majority of DJs do not do this as their living. And so what is the perception? How do people see us as an industry? This is what Kathy Griffin had to say.
So anyway, the kicker is that Lohan is the DJ at the party. Thank you for groaning. I am so with you. Since when did DJ become a vocation? Right? It's not a job. All right, there's no dental plan that goes along with DJ. It's what you do when you're drunk at the party. I want to play the Blue Oyster Cult. Come on. You know, it's not a good long-time goal.
I have a dental plan. I have health insurance. I pay for it out of my business. That's what a professional does. At a wedding show recently, we had the chance to ask some brides, what's the worst thing you've ever seen a wedding DJ do? What I just showed you was comedy. This is our reality.
Yes, I have. I've had the wedding DJ. The couple had a slideshow of pictures, and there were pictures from when the little girl was really young. And one of them, she was sitting on the curb, and she was a little chubby, but she was probably 4 or 5 years old. And the wedding DJ said something like, "Good thing she doesn't look like that anymore, or we might not have a wedding to be at today." And everyone was just like, oh my gosh, we could not believe that he said that. That was pretty shocking.
You want to know why I call myself a wedding entertainment director? Because I'm tired of people thinking that I'm this guy. I'm tired of people assuming that I'm the same as this guy. If you're using the word professional in your marketing, the public has no reason to see you as any better or different than Sup Dog. So, statement number 10, instead of "I'm a professional," should read "My profession is or will be," because the bar of achievement is set by the leaders, not by the majority. The bar of achievement is set by the leaders, not by the majority. In our industry, the bar has been set by the masses, and too many of my comrades have pushed to keep that bar set low. But hey, who can blame them? They're DJs. Give DJs a bar, and they do the limbo.
All around the limbo clock. Hey, let's do the limbo rock.
For far too long, we've been doing the professionalism limbo, saying how low can we go and still call ourselves pro? And we've got it all backwards. Instead of doing the limbo, we should be trying to do the high jump. It's time to start focusing on setting the bar and setting it high. And in your heart, you know I'm right. Now you may be asking, how do we set the bar high? I can tell you I've spent the last 10 years trying to change things inside my own industry. And I found out it's like herding cats, because the vast majority of them don't want to set the bar high. I can give you one simple way, and this will sound self-serving, for you to help raise that bar. Send brides to buy my book. I'm not kidding. I've gotten emails from DJs in various parts of the country who've said, oh my God, I don't want brides to read this book. I'm going to have to do too much work now. I thought that's what you did when you did something for a living. I thought it was supposed to be work. You want to see some change in our industry? You want to see better events at your venue? You want to see better photos at your venue? You want to see a change in the way people think about entertainment at weddings instead of thinking it's just music? Send the brides to thebestweddingreceptionever.com or amazon.com. Tell them to buy my book, and they will make a better decision about their entertainment needs. I guarantee it. We're getting feedback about that from all over the world. So to wrap up, statement number 1 needs to change from I could never to how can I. Number 2 needs to change from I would but to I will, and state those goals. Number 3, I can't in my area to I can expand my market. Number 4, I will lose bookings to I will gross more. Number 5, I'd feel guilty to I'll feel respected. Number 6, I can't see paying for to I must invest in. Number 7, I've got great gear to I love my clients. Number 8, I'm just a DJ to I'm responsible for. Number 9, I'm already the best to I'm still learning. And number 10, I'm a professional to my profession is and will be. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank
Great
you.
job. All right. Thank you. Isn't that good?